Welcome to the Creative Force Podcast, a podcast all about empowering you to live in your God-given identity and go after the dreams in your heart. I'm your host, Sharon Stark, and every week we'll be having powerful conversations that will combine practical and biblical wisdom for living your purpose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Force Podcast. I'm here today with Beth McCord. Beth is a speaker, coach, and founder of Your Enneagram Coach, and she has been coaching for over 20 years. I actually first found out about her myself in 2018 from a podcast, and what I really love is that Beth really approaches the Enneagram from a biblical perspective. Welcome to the show, Beth. I'm so excited to have you here. Can you share with the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, so my name is Beth McCord. My husband and I have been married almost 30 years. We're coming up on 29. We got married really young. We were 20. We have two kids. They're both grown. And actually, our first grandson is supposed to be born within a month. So I will be a grandma as well. And yeah, so I found out about the Enneagram back in 2001, before it was really popular. Wow. And before there were any really good resources from a Christian perspective, and my husband was in seminary at the time. So I was reading it and learning a lot and really intrigued by how insightful it was. But a lot of the authors used language that didn't resonate with our Christian worldview. And so my husband, being in a 4-year Master's of Divinity degree, I would then talk to him like, hey, they say this. How would we view that from a biblical sense? And he would kind of nuance it and share some Bible verses. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. And so we did that really for, about 15 years until I launched Your Enneagram Coach. And there's so many things that happened along the way. And so 15 years I was studying and just kind of, keeping it to myself and sometimes sharing it, or Jeff would share it. And anyway, that's a whole, we can get into that later, but that's a whole story of kind of hiding my true gifts and desires and not thinking I have much to offer. And then God just totally waking me up, and here we are today. So it's been a long ride, lots of ups and downs and challenges along the way. But I think if anything, God has just given me the gift of resilience and passion for what I love to do, which in itself is a miracle because I'm a type 9, the peaceful accommodator. And a lot of times we don't know what we want to do, what we want. Hey, I can go along with you, whatever you want to do. Just tell me, I'll go along to get along. But it's really hard for us 9s to know what we want. And so I really just kind of went along with everyone else's life and agendas and needs, accommodating along the way, which, hey, I did a really good job in the sense of being a wife, pastor's wife, a mom, all of those things. That was great. But when my kids were 16 and 18, anyway, around that age, I was like, I'm going to be an empty nester here soon. So what am I going to do? And I knew it would take me a long time to kind of figure it out. And so that's when I started kind of pondering on what I wanted to do. And then I saw life coaching was like something, because it was a career. I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. But I loved mentoring women and I loved the Enneagram. And I thought, I wonder if you can smush those 3 things together. And I didn't see anyone on the internet at the time doing it, but I thought, you know what? I think I could make a go at it. I worked for Michael Hyatt and Company as his personal assistant, and he tells you how to build your business and your platform and all those things. I had been listening and learning all along the way. And so that sounded intriguing. It sounded easy to do, but could I really do it? No, but in the back of my mind, I was like, that would be great. So this is over the course of 2 years, thinking and pondering and kind of planning, but having a lot of self-doubt along the way. And so, yeah, that's the journey. And then there was just a pivotal moment where I had a wake-up call and Your Enneagram Coach was born. So Anyway, that's a little bit about me and how I got from being a quiet little mouse to who I am today.
I absolutely love that. And I love like your story. We're going to have to dive into that even more. Just
Yeah.
like how you were willing to like step out and to go for it. And I'm so excited for the listeners to really understand the Enneagram more so that they can understand themselves more. And that is really what this is all about. So can you just start us off by sharing exactly like what is the Enneagram for someone who might not have a clue?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what is this Enneagram thing?
Yeah.
Um, it's a weird word. So Ennea means 9, gram means diagram or drawing. And so when you look at the symbol, and if you're watching this, on video, you'll see that I have the symbol here on my coffee mug, but it looks like a 9-pointed star. And it's a 9-pointed geometric figure. And each of the points represent a basic or a main personality type. So, what this really means is the Enneagram is showing you that there are 9 valid perspectives of life. So it'd be like, because you and I are different Enneagram types, it'd be like
Yeah.
you're wearing teal glasses and I'm wearing purple glasses. Though we're seeing, in a sense, the same things, we're experiencing the same things, we're seeing it, interpreting it, and reacting to it differently based on our core motivations. And there
Mm.
are 4 core motivations that are the driving force to why you think, feel, and behave. So each personality of the 9 types has their own core motivations. And there's the core fear. It's the thing you're always running away from or trying to prevent from happening.
Mm.
You have a core desire, like, oh man, if I just get this, then I'll be, you know, fully satisfied and content. Then we have a core weakness. And this is the Achilles heel, the thorn in your side, the thing that keeps tripping you up time and time again. And then we have a core longing. This is the message your heart longs to hear.
Mm.
And what we do at Your Enneagram Coach is we put that all through a biblical lens because even though we are weak, he is strong. And even
Amen.
though we have a core longing that we really honestly try to get from people, careers, material things, you name it, food, drugs, all of the things, Christ is the one who satisfies our core longing and has already if we are his child. So we put it through that lens. Now, the Enneagram helps you to know. Basically, think about it as your internal GPS. Your current location is your main type, and the Enneagram will show you, hey, your healthiest path, your healthiest destination is over here. Well, a lot of times we're just driving along like we do on the highway, and we're kind of like sleeping at the wheel, or
Yeah.
we're like distracted with the kids in the back of the seat. And we're like, trying to get them to stop fighting. And so we drift off, right? Sometimes unknowingly. Well,
Hmm.
that rumble strip that's on the side of the highway is supposed to be there to alert you, to wake you up and to get you back on your healthiest path so you don't crash, again. Well, all the time, I know a lot of us feel like we keep falling the same common pitfalls time and time again. And that's
Yeah.
where I was. And I just kept throwing up my hands in the air or pulling my hair out, feeling like, have I not learned anything? Am I not getting any better? Like, what is wrong with me?
Mm.
Well, shame and self condemnation and fear are not part of what the Holy Spirit offers. And so, what I recognized was, oh, wait, the Enneagram is, yes, it is telling me what it's like when I veer off course and why I might do that. But it's like a rumble strip. It's waking me up and alerting me, like, hey, if you keep going in that direction, even though you naturally do it, that's not going to be beneficial to you. So then I can learn by being more self aware what is the healthier path for my personality type. And that's key because so many teachers and self help gurus and pastors, and you name it, they're kind of giving an overarching general, hey, go in this direction. This is beneficial for you. Well,
Hmm.
it would be so much more helpful if they could nuance it to you specifically. And that's what we do. So when someone says, hey, pursue your dreams,
Yeah.
you can do it. Well, okay, so what are the hurdles for like me, the type 9? And what are the assets I have? What are the strengths that I have? And what's going to hinder me? But what's going to help me to grow and excel? And we can kind of unpack my story in that way. And that's what the Enneagram is going to do. So it helps you to understand when you're healthy, average, and unhealthy. So again, are you veering off and you need that rumble strip to wake you up? And are you going to pay attention to it and actually get back on your healthiest path, which is super hard? No one really enjoys that. Growth is hard,
Yeah.
but it's vital to us. And when we start choosing that hard path to get back on, it is so amazing to experience. It's life-giving, not just to us, but all of those around us. But it's really hard. It feels not normal to us, right? Because we just
Yeah.
don't live usually or didn't grow up that way, but it is the right trajectory for our personality type. And as we do it more and more, it becomes more normal. Like, yeah, I can do that. So that's in a nutshell what the Enneagram is. So 9 basic personalities that are seeing, interpreting, and reacting to life circumstances from their own perspective.
I love that. And I love what you shared about like how it can really be nuanced. So it's not just like pursue your dreams, but like finding out like what does that mean for your specific type. That's really
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
I know that sometimes some Christians, when they hear the word Enneagram, it's like, oh, it sounds like weird. They might see the
Mm-hmm.
diagram and they're a little concerned, like, is this like for Christians? And so I just
Yeah.
want to address that concern, like right off the bat. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah. Well, so at our website, yourenneagramcoach.com, if you put /origins, you can read some articles, watch some videos from us and some different people. We have 3 podcasts that we did with 3 pastors
Oh, that's
that really
awesome.
help you to understand the history of the Enneagram. But probably the one that's the best is by Tyler Zach or Zoch, Zach. And if you go to YouTube, he has a 1-hour presentation. So it's free, and it's should Enneagrams use the Enneagram? Now you're going to see lots of other people saying different things, but
Hmm.
when you listen to Tyler, he actually recently did a deep dive research on all of the things that people think they're saying. And like, there's this problem, there's that problem. And he really found out what was really going on and the truth from those that learned from the top teachers who really started the Enneagram. So, anyway, so with that all being said, you know what? I love the Enneagram. And God
Yeah.
uses all things that are broken and redeems them, or he can. And Myers-Briggs has its faults. Strength Fighters is going to have its faults. And so there are things with the Enneagram, which, again, why I had Jeff help me to nuance it with biblical perspectives. And it wasn't just like, oh, well, they say this, and therefore let's just put it in Christian language. It wasn't that. It was like, does this line up with our biblical beliefs? And if so, how does it line up and where does it fit in? If it
Hmm.
didn't, let's throw it out.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest is for people to go to that website or go to YouTube and watch Tyler Zach's should Enneagrams use or should people use the Enneagram? And I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised by his deep dive. He also has a course that takes it, I think, even further with 8 modules. So if you really
Okay.
want to know more, you can go get his course on that, which is fabulous.
Okay, awesome. And all of that will be in the show notes too.
Great.
And I love that like yeah, I feel like when all the resources that you have, like you really point people back to God. So it's not about just like themselves, but really pointing people back to
Yep.
God. And
Mhm.
that's really powerful. Can you take us and kind of give us an overview of what are the different 9 types?
Yeah, great. Okay, so again, so when I talk about the 9 types, you have to realize that this is about why they do what they do, their
Yeah.
motivations behind their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And again, that's on the core the core motivations. So the type 1 is the principled reformer, and they fear being corruptible, wrong, and bad. They're wanting to be moral, perfect, and right, but they have this core weakness of resentment, and this is where
Mm.
they feel upset and frustrated and irritated or slash angry. They may not admit that themselves, others in the world are not perfect. And the resentment comes in because they'll enter a room and mistakes, errors, anything that's not right, imperfections leap out at them, and their inner critic assaults them with it. And we all have an inner critic, but theirs is like a megaphone that
Mm.
is blaring at them constantly of what needs to be fixed. So they have these long lists of to-dos, but it's not about so that others will see it and be like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. It's that the inner critic will be quiet. If I just get
Okay.
through this list, or if I just perfect these things, or reform these things, or make these things better, then that inner critic hopefully will stop berating me so intensely. And so they think everyone else shows up into a room in that same way. And they're
Mm.
like so frustrated. Like, why aren't people picking that piece of paper up or fixing that or reforming this or desire the same things that I do? Because if everyone saw it the same way, it would kind of look like they just don't care. But not everybody sees the world through the lens of a type 1. Now, the core longing of the type 1 is to hear and experience you are good. And what Christ does for them, because we aren't good, right? Like we have
Yeah.
fallen, we have sinned, and we can try to be perfect, but we're never going to be. But
Yeah.
he is good on our behalf and puts that in us, his righteousness in us. So when God looks at us, he sees his son. Therefore, we are good because of his son. So they can rest in that message that is true. The type 2s, which is you,
Yes.
the nurturing supporter, they fear being rejected, dispensable, unworthy, unloved, unappreciated, underappreciated.
Mhm.
They desire to be loved, wanted, pursued, and pursued, loved, wanted, and just to be worthy of other people's connection and attention. But they struggle with the core weakness of pride. Now, pride here, and like 2s might be like, wait, I don't have pride.
Yeah.
Well, what it means here is that they negate their own feelings and needs so much that they focus solely on the needs and feelings of others. And then they hone in on a person that has like a great need or one that they feel like they should move into and serve. And so what happens is they confidently insert themselves into that person's life, whether through advice, opinions, direction, mentoring, baking a casserole, babysitting, whatever it
Yeah.
is, they confidently insert their help, whether they've been asked or not asked, because they want to be needed. Like so if someone needs them, oh, therefore they love me, especially if someone shows appreciation or gratitude. That's what kind of fills their cup up. But actually, what they really want, what they really long for is to hear you are loved for simply being you, meaning you don't have to serve, you don't have to give, you by yourself are loved and pursued. And that's exactly what Christ did. So he came
Amen.
here, went through everything because he loved you so much and he pursued you. So when 2s rest in that unconditional love, and it's not about what they do for others, man, what a blessing that is. Does that feel right?
Yeah, I resonate with that so much.
You feel like I've read your mail, like, oh, great,
Yes.
Beth just exposed me to the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're listening and I get to your type, you'll probably want to crawl under your car steering wheel or under the couch or under the table, wherever you're
Yeah.
at. Okay, so the type 3 is the admirable achiever. They fear being inefficient, a failure, not recognized, not winning. They desire to be admired, successful, and to have high status and high regards in other people's eyes. But they struggle with the core weakness of deceit. Now, what deceit here means in the Enneagram is that they're deceiving themselves and others into believing that they are only the image they present to others.
Mm.
And so, what that means is whichever group a type 3 is around, they will shape shift quickly in the moment to look admirable or successful, or they've got it figured out, or whatever it is that they need. So, like maybe they're, let's say, a nurse, but they go hang out with some friends and they're talking about playing pickleball. Well, the 3 might just all of a sudden shift and kind of like get into the pickleball language and the lingo and kind of look like
Okay.
they know what they're doing because they want to be admired and they want to have that in and they want to have some status and respect in that community as having accomplished or elevated themselves. So they're really looking to accomplish more and more and for others to see it. Now, for them, if someone doesn't see it and acknowledge it, it really doesn't feel like it happened for them. So you
Yeah.
might see type 3s talk about their achievements and successes or their to-do list, what they've checked off. And some people might be like, why do you keep telling me all this? Well, because if they're thinking, if you don't know, then how can you be proud of me or love me or admire me? So I got to tell you all these things. But what they long to hear and experience is to hear you are loved for simply being you. You don't have to accomplish
Mm.
anything. And that's what Christ did. So he accomplished everything on our behalf and gives it to us so the three can actually relax and to enjoy life as it is and feel that love. So our type fours are the
Yes.
introspective individualist,
Yeah.
and they fear being plain, mundane, not original. They desire to be authentic, real, and very true to themselves. They want to be special and different in their own unique way. But they struggle with the core weakness of envy. And what envy means is the threes have a lot of emotions and they're very aware of their emotions. But what happens is the threes will feel as if there's something tragically flawed and missing inside them. And they have this great longing to become this idealized version of themselves. So they have this vision, and you can almost think of it as a perfectionism of themselves, but it's this vision, this kind of knowing of a beautiful side of themselves, but they feel
Okay.
like they're defective and flawed. So think of them as like a puzzle that you're putting together, and you're so excited to get this done and show someone because it's just like this beautiful puzzle that you've accomplished and can't wait for them to see how unique and special it is. But you get it down to the last piece and it's missing. And you're like, are you serious? Like, this thing is defective and flawed now. Like, you can't
Uh,
enjoy it because it has this hole in it, right? Well, that's how the fours feel internally.
wow.
And so when they see others, they feel like their puzzles are all put together great in a great way. And they're like, well, what's wrong with me? Now, we know that that's not true, but that is
Mm-hmm.
how they feel. That's the core weakness that's going on inside them. But what they long to hear and experience is you are loved and wanted for simply being you. Now, what this means for the type four is that you are seen for you, your unique self. And Christ has accomplished that because he made you. He knows every part of you. There's nothing that's hidden from him. And he still pursued you and saved you and brought you into his family because you belong. So
Amen.
that's the type fours.
Yeah.
Any questions so far? Or
Yeah, no, you're doing great. There's a lot of
okay.
detail, but I'm sure the listeners are they've either heard their type or they're waiting to hear it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I know we're going through it like at a fast speed, so you're going to have to like go back and listen to it again or get some free resources from our website or get some of our books. But anyway,
Yeah.
so the type 5 is the analytical investigator. Now, the type 5s fear being ignorant, worthless, not having enough knowledge to get something done. They desire to have insights, knowledge, wisdom, data to be capable and competent to get things done in life. And what I mean by get things done is it could be anything. Most of the time, they feel they don't have enough resources or knowledge to move forward. So they hold themselves back because they need more.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really tricky in our world with the internet because you could keep going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole and
Yeah,
never stop, right?
that's so
Um,
true.
but the core weakness of the 5 is called avarice. Now, avarice usually means greedy with money, but with the Enneagram, we're really talking about greedy with their internal resources. So the 5s feel like they only have so much resources or interaction to give others in relationship. So they kind of hoard their own energy, their presence, and any other kind of resources to themselves. And they fear asking for help because what if someone's going to ask them for something, and they only have so much to give. So a great way to think of a type 5 in this scenario is a cell phone battery. So let's say everyone plugs in at night, the extroverts, the introverts, and the type 5s, because people are like, oh, they're introverts. Well, there's occasional extrovert 5 out there.
Okay.
But the extrovert wakes up every day with 100%. And then when they start getting low, they just go hang out with people and poof, there you go, right?
I'm
Energy.
also an extrovert.
And so you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The introvert hangs out all day with people. And, by the end of the day, they're 75% and they can kind of tell, you know what, I need to call it a day and kind of retreat. But the 5 wakes up every day with about 20, 25% interactive energy for the whole day. So you can imagine if you had a cell phone and you only have that much energy for the entire day, and you don't know when you can plug it in, you're going to be very mindful of how you use that resource, right?
Mm.
You're not going to be streaming West Wings, the show.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, doing lots of social media interaction. You're going to probably just keep it very minimal because you're afraid that you're going to lose battery. And for the five, what happens is they feel like if they lose all of their internal energy, it's like you can't turn it back on again. And so
Mm.
they have this fear of catastrophic depletion. Now, that might seem extreme to others, but you can imagine, like with a cell phone, if someone takes your phone and you have 5% left and like, hey, let me show you this game live, like the Super Bowl game live. No, 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 don't use my phone, use your phone. Well, that can come across as cold or like greedy or not sharing. But the five is feeling like, hey, I only have 5% left. Stop taking my resources. I've got to keep it all to myself. So if you have a relationship with a five, it's really helpful if you're like, especially there's a lot of twos married to fives. And she's like, hey,
I
let's go
think
out
I
with
have a friend that
Smiths.
might be a five.
Yeah. So if you just surprise them, like, hey, we're going to go out with the Smiths tonight, they're going to be like, I don't think so. You didn't tell me. I didn't plan. I haven't recharged. So you could go, hey, I would love to go out with the Smiths later tonight. What do you need to recharge to get to a place where that would be possible for you? So that would be super helpful. You'd be speaking their language. Now, the five longs to hear your needs are not a problem because for them, they feel like their needs are like this big boulder and they can't put it on anyone else. So they're just going to take care of it themselves. They're very independent. But Christ looks at it like, I'm the God of the universe. I got you. That's just a little pebble to me,
Yeah.
and I delight in taking good care of you and have already. Our type sixes are our faithful guardians. Now, this is my husband, my son, my mom, my best friend.
Oh,
So
wow.
lots of my team members. So I'm surrounded by sixes. Now, they fear itself, being without guidance, support, and security, being blamed and targeted, but they desire security, guidance, and support. And their core weakness is the weakness of fear or anxiety. Now, everyone can be anxious. All
Mhm.
Enneagram types can be anxious, but this comes from an inner committee. Now, remember we talked about the type one having a loud one inner critic. Well, the sixes have an inner committee and they're chiming in from all different perspectives. Like, well, what about this? Well, did you think about that? Well, this could happen too. Well, you got to plan for that and this and this and this. And their mind is just like, well, which one, right? Like, who am I supposed to listen to? So they look outside themselves for someone or a belief system or a institution or a religion that they trust, and then they follow that until proven otherwise. But it takes them a long time to build that trust up. But once they trust, they're loyal, they're all in. So the type one, on the other hand, they follow their inner critic. They trust their inner critic. The six, they don't trust themselves because they got all of these messages going on, right? So they look outside themselves.
Mm.
Now, for the six, they are always thinking about what could happen, negative outcomes, worst case scenarios. And they may not really think of it that way. For them, they're just preparing for what could
Mhm.
happen. Um, but they live in that world. So what they long to hear is you are safe and secure. And there
Mm.
is no one more safe and secure to be in than Jesus Christ himself, right? Like he has
Amen.
accomplished all things. He is the victor. And so you can come knowing that you are provided, protected, guided in everything. So that's our type sixes. Our type sevens are the enthusiast optimists. So they are the fun, lighthearted, jovial people, but they fear being bored, limited. Um, they fear being trapped in emotional pain. Oh my gosh, that
Mhm.
would be the worst. For them, they long to be happy, to be satisfied, and fully content. Now, they struggle with the core weakness of gluttony. Now, this doesn't just mean food, but they really love lots of variety of foods and trying things. But for them, this is a gluttony of life. They
Mm.
have this insatiable desire to fill themselves up. with new exciting things. And because it's kind of like they have a bucket inside with holes in it, and they're like, oh, that's a fun thing. I'll try that and I'll try this. And they put all these things in the bucket and everything's great. And then they're like, oh, wait, what's going on? Never mind. I'll just go get this and I'll go get that, So they reframe in their mind, keep everything positive. But really what's happening, it's like they're starving inside, but they're eating cotton candy. It's sweet to the taste, but it doesn't last. The sevens long to hear you will be taken care of. And a lot of times they're like, what does that mean? No, I don't. Like, I take care of myself. Thank you very much. Well, that's the whole thing. They don't trust anyone to come through for them at the level they need to have this contentment and satisfaction. So they're just going to go do it themselves. No problem. I'll go find my own satisfaction and happiness in life. But they would love it if someone could completely satisfy them. And Christ does that for us, has done it and continues to do it.
Yes.
The type 8 is our passionate protector. Now, the 8s, I think, are pretty misunderstood.
Yeah, I sometimes hear them referred to as like the challenger as well.
Yes, the challenger. And some people will call them like a bulldozer, but I like to refer to them as a big diesel snowplow, like the ones in the Midwest and the North, that you got to have those things in order to plow a highway with a foot of snow. Like you can't use a little Ford pickup truck with a shovel on the front. Not going to work. So the 8s are like these big diesel snowplows, and they fear being harmed, controlled, challenged, manipulated, and left at the mercy of injustice. They desire to protect themselves and those in their small inner circle, but they struggle with the core weakness of lust or excess. And this is like a lust for life and things. And like what they see, if they want, they just go get it and take it for their own. And they're super intense. And they don't even know how intense they can they just have this like energy and this kind of power, this force. And some people say, you're so intimidating. And they're like, what? No, I'm just like a normal person, And everyone's like, no, you've got really big energy. But for them, what they see, they will go ahead and get. Okay. So they'll plow a path. Now, here's the thing. As a snowplow, the healthy way of being a snowplow is that you see everyone in need and say, hey, get behind me or get out of the way. I'll plow this path for you. I've got you. That would be amazing, right? But sometimes they're not fully aware of who's around them. So sometimes they nick people on the side of the road. And like, dude, why'd you just do that? And they're like, well, why are you there? Don't you see me plowing? But then there's times if they're not in a good place, they don't really care if you're in the way. Like, I'm coming. And so I think people misunderstand 8s because a lot of them feel the snowplow bump up into them or plow over them. But those are when 8s are at a less healthy place. But man, when an 8 is strong and powerful, it's like a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He plowed the path for the civil rights movement. There's lots of people involved, but he was the front runner. So that gives you a great indication of a powerful, awesome 8.
Yeah.
Now they long to hear you will not be betrayed. And Christ was the most betrayed. He gets it. Therefore, he died for us and secures our relationship with him and our eternity with him. So we are fully protected and will not be blindsided or betrayed by him. Last but not least is my type, the type 9, the peaceful accommodator. We fear conflict and tension of any kind, being overlooked and not in relationship with others, any kind of discord. We desire to have inner stability and peace of mind. But we struggle with the core weakness of sloth. And this is not a physical laziness, though we do like our cozy comforts. This is more about an internal slothfulness. We are so focused on others, what they want, what they need, their agendas, and going along to get along and merging, that we forget ourselves. And it's like there's this thick fog internally, and it takes a long time for us to get through that fog to really know what we want and to actually accomplish it. Usually we just ignore it and then just simply go along with the next person and accommodate. But what we long to hear is your presence matters. And there's nothing more that says your presence matters than the God of the universe dying for you and bringing you back into relationship with him because he loves you. So that is all the 9 Enneagram types and their core motivations.
That was such a great and thorough description of each of them. And I'm sure some of the listeners, while they're listening, they kind of probably figured out their type, what they are. I know when I first heard the Enneagram, I actually can connect and relate a lot to the 7 too. So I was kind of like not
Hmm.
sure. Like there was like a couple that stood out to me. So I was like, I'm not sure which one I am.
Yep.
So what would you recommend for like listeners, like if they're wondering, like, how do I find out what my type is?
Yeah. Great question. So you'll put it in the show notes, but you can always start by getting or going to yourenneagramcoach.com. And in the upper right hand corner, you can take our free assessment, and that will give you a general ballpark range of what you scored as, like what you think of your internal world. Then you can download what I just went through was the core motivations, and that's a free PDF. So yourenneagramcoach.com/core motivations and look through those and maybe rank them 1 to 9 and kind of see where you land there. But then if you're really stuck, you can do two things. You can get our free mistyping guide, and that's at yourenneagramcoach.com/mistypes, and it's free. And that's where I would show you a short paragraph of the biggest differences between the type 7 and the type 2. And you could read it and go, oh, yeah, I'm clearly a 2 and not a 7. That's a really helpful resource. Now, we use all 9 Enneagram types to varying degrees, but one reigns supreme. And that's what you're really wanting to look for and start there first. So, those are some resources. If you're super stuck after that point and you just don't know, hire a coach. And we've got lots of certified coaches that you can find on our website.
That's awesome. That's like a lot of amazing free resources for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talked earlier, you're kind of talking about your journey and how like you're hiding desires and stuff. And can you just even tell us more about how once you figured out your Enneagram type, how that started to change things for you?
Yeah. So I learned I was an Enneagram 9 back in 2001, and I was
Uh-huh.
26. I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And just to let you know, they're now 25 and 23.
Oh,
So it's been a
wow.
long time. Um, but I was like, oh, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
That's why I struggle. And so nines don't feel like their presence matters, their voice, their desires, their passions, and that they're supposed to focus on everyone else and go along to get along because they fear conflict so much and tension. So, and we feel like it's being very selfish if we just focus on ourselves and do our accomplishments in life. So we have to work on that mindset that if God has given us a gift and a talent, it's not selfish to develop it, to nurture it, and then to pursue it. In fact, that's what he wants us to do, right? To
Yeah.
um, be in our God calling at the season he has us, right? So I've been in many seasons of life, but what is he calling you to do in that moment? And how does he want you to fulfill that calling in the way he designed you? So for me as a 9, I mean, even from being a little girl, I was a great teacher.
Hmm.
And and I was a great mentor and all these things, but I just kind of ignored all that. Like, yeah, I'm just the pastor's wife or, whatever.
Hmm.
Not very much, no big deal here. Um, and then when I started thinking about coaching with the Enneagram from a Christian perspective, like remember I wanted to mush it together and I didn't see anyone else was doing it. Like, well, what if no one else is doing it? Can I really do it? And so I kind of ignored it. I kind of kept waiting for assurances from other people looking at me like, yeah, you can do it. Like, go do it. It didn't come. And it won't come. People aren't sitting
Yeah.
around going, oh, look, there's a 9 over there. Let me tell them they should go do that thing that they're holding internally that I have no idea about
Hmm.
and encourage them. And so what happened one day is had been working with one particular person who's kind of like a coach, and she had lots of people in her world that influenced people. And I was working with her like every day, and I kept telling her, "You got to learn about the Enneagram." Well, we're really into Myers Briggs, okay. So I'd tell her a little here and a little there, but not much. Well, one day after working with this person for like a year, I see on Instagram, so I'm at home scrolling around, and I see an image that she posted, and it was an Enneagram book. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. My friend told me about this book. I can't wait to dive in. And I literally stood up and walked straight out of the house, grabbing my keys. And it was like a tsunami of energy as I was flowing out of the house, passing Jeff in the kitchen. And his eyes were like, uh oh, what's going on? It was that energy. And for us nines, we're always like peaceable and kind and everything's good. But when that happens, they know something big is happening. And I'm like, I can't talk because I was going to like burst. And I said, just look at Instagram. So I head out the door, get in the car, and I start driving. And I literally start screaming because I know that volcano that I've been holding back was erupting. And I knew that was
Oh,
good.
wow.
So I'm crying, I'm like screaming, like, why am I always overlooked? Like, why can't people see what I have to offer? I know the Enneagram really well, and I could have told her anything she wanted. Like, why all of a sudden is this friend of
Mm.
hers who just learned about the Enneagram, knows nothing about it, and she's so excited to listen to her? Like, so all of those feelings of being overlooked and my presence doesn't matter, my voice doesn't matter, was just coming to the forefront. And that's the false messages of the type 9. So I turn around, I come home, and as I'm coming home, I hear this very calm, patient voice say, "Why are you so angry?" And I was like, "Are you serious? Did you not see that post?" I mean, I was really that sassy, like, come on, God, you know more than I even know.
Yeah.
And because I knew he can handle even my sass and my hurt and my pain and my sorrow and my grief, he was so kind. And just, I kind of finished my little spiel. And a little while later, he said, "No, really, why are you so angry with yourself?" And I knew right then this clear message was, I am so angry because I overlook myself, and what I permit, I
Oh,
promote.
wow.
And that was my wake up call. And I knew right then that I had the choice as I was driving home. Am I going to show up for myself? And am I going to develop myself, whether people do want it or not? My presence, my voice matters or not. Am I going to overlook myself? Because that's what I'm teaching and training people to do. And we do that. Everyone does that, but just in their own type's way. And so I made the decision right then. Nope, this, I'm important. My passions are important. This is what God has given me. I'm good at what I do. And when I got home, I started looking for the right certification program and getting all of that done. And then eventually launching Your Enneagram Coach. Now I've written 12 books, and we've had 3 million people take our free assessment, 3 million downloads. And so this
It's
little person
incredible.
who thought she had no voice has a voice. And it's not, I'm not saying all that because nines really hate self-promoting, but I'm saying that because God has called each of the 9 types in their own direction. And everyone can be an Enneagram coach. So it's not just a 9, but God's calling each unique type into their own way of doing it and their own skills and desires. And they'll have their own hurdles. So my hurdle again was the sloth, right? Ignoring my own needs and just focusing on everyone else until I woke up to it that one day. And it was clear to me what I needed to do. So that's my story.
That's a super powerful story. And honestly, I can relate to that a lot too, because I feel like as a two, I'm always doing stuff for others. And I would get so frustrated with like the fact that like, why can't I make any progress on the things like my goals and like the things that I want to do? Because I was just so outwardly focused. And
Yes.
so I feel like that story can really resonate with other types as well. It's
Oh,
really
yeah. I mean,
powerful.
as a type 2, like again, so the pride of the 2 is you're going to walk into a room and you're going to have these antennae that come out and you're going to assess the needs, the feelings of others. And it's not like you're trying to do it, it's the superpower you
Yeah.
have. And it will distract you from focusing on also tending and caring for yourself and your pursuits and your passion and calling. It, but both can happen. But the two's tendency is to then just focus on others because they think it's being selfish to focus on themselves. And if
Hmm.
others see them taking care of themselves and that's selfishness, then people are going to reject them. And so then they ignore their own needs and just focus on others because they want people to think of them as serving and giving and
Yeah.
amazing, you know. And so you can get derailed. So like you're driving on, the highway and you start seeing someone else has a need and you're like, oh, but I have to help them. And so then you move over in that direction, and that could be the rumble strip. Now, the rumble strip is for you, is that really true? Is this a person and a responsibility that you need to meet? Is God literally calling you to? Now, the twos are like, yes, yes, it's me.
Yeah.
But But there's so many times that you need to say no in order that you can say yes to what is actually the main thing.
Yeah.
And so think about Christ. He could have been around all the people all the time, healing all the people nonstop, right? I mean, he's God,
Hmm.
but he was also human. And he knew that he had to take time away to nurture his body, to get good rest, and to have time with the Lord, the 3 disciples, the 12, and then the masses occasionally.
Mm.
So you could sit there and go, well, yeah, as twos, they probably would have been out there helping everyone all the time and just exhausting themselves. but take Christ's example as a great way to know, okay, wait, is this something that I'm supposed to come through, or should I point them maybe in a direction, or, just pray for them or hand them over to a person that could help them? Not everything is that the twos have to help. And so they've got to get out of that pride moment that they can be the one to save the day and learn to take good care of themselves.
I love that example of Christ. That actually, I'm going to meditate on that because I think that's a really
Mm-hmm.
good example.
Yeah, because in our Christian community, it's like you just need to not focus on yourself and just focus on others. If you focus on yourself, you're being selfish. So just, lay your life down, for the many. And it's like, well, yes and no. I mean, Christ did lay his life down, but that was in one instance. But
Yeah.
along the way, how did he nurture and care for his whole being,
Yeah.
mind, body, and soul, while also following God's desire in being with people and teaching and healing and all those things? So I think he's a perfect representation of what a two should really be like. Um,
Yeah.
which I know that's going to be kind of hard for twos to swallow because it's probably like a mind shift of like, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. That's true. And how, like, in general, would you say, how can the Enneagram help like all of the different types in really pursuing their goals?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go through it briefly, but this will give you
Yeah.
guys kind of a look into each type because every type can be successful and every
Yes.
type can be derailed. So the type one can be derailed by thinking that everything has to be perfect, fixed, reformed to the nth degree, or they can't rest. And that isn't true. There's lots of things that aren't perfected that are great as they are. Take nature, for instance. It's
Yeah.
perfect and it's chaos. And so, how is God calling you as a type one to be present in the imperfect and present and moving forward in what He has for you right now? Knowing that if He wanted that thing perfect and fixed and reformed, He would have it that way right now. So, trust His timing, keep moving forward because they will, but trust the grace and the timing. The twos, like I said, the
Yeah.
twos can easily get derailed by, and they just absorb people's feelings and needs. And it's really hard for them to shake it. But write them down, pray about it. Don't just move headlong into it. And you're going to convince yourself, no, that person needs me. There's nothing else I can do. I have to focus on them. And that is your yellow, red flag that the bride is coming in. So take some time to really think it through and even talk to someone, but really talk to someone that you trust and that you'll listen to, because they might say, yeah, you shouldn't do that. And you're going to want to follow them, even though everything inside you is going to say otherwise, so that you can stay on track to pursue what God really has in front of you right now.
Amen.
The type three can get really derailed by people not admiring them. They have to achieve the next great thing. They have to look successful. They have to have a certain image. Well, that can really derail them because they could be focusing so much on that stuff than really being loved and genuine and authentic to who they are. Like, what are your feelings? What is your passions? Not what the society or the people you're around says is successful, but what is it for you? What's God called you to do? So being in an authentic space for the three can feel very uncomfortable, but that's a really great place for the three to be. The type four, on the other hand, they love being authentic and real to their emotions, which is great, but their emotions themselves can derail them into thinking there's something defective and wrong in them. And so they're going to then fixate on their internal world and what's wrong and how can I fix this? And, others are better than me. And so then they won't move out and pursue a goal or a passion. So that can derail them when in fact, they have so much to offer people. They are some of the greatest people to sit with in your pain, your sorrow, your confusion, anything negative.
Mm.
They can go there all day long and they'll go with the great stuff too, but they are so amazing in the hard places. The type five can get derailed by thinking they have to know more information. And
Yeah.
so they won't move forward and actually do the next thing. But if they will trust that they have enough information right now to do the next thing, they need to take that next step. They need to be bold, be courageous, and confident, and just take the next step. More information will come along the way. Type 6s can get derailed by the inner committee. And I don't know, what do you think? What do you think? And then they're going around asking literally handful or dozen people to see what they're saying so that they can figure out what the right path is, but what they need to do is to trust their inner guidance, to trust the Holy Spirit will guide them. They are so discerning. The 7s are going to get derailed by all the fun, the cotton candy of life, whatever it is for them. And so they need to recognize what's cotton candy and what is actually substance in life, what is actual nutrition. And for them, it's savoring every blessing they have in the moment. So being present, seeing what they have and relishing in it versus going off to the next fun thing. Where does God have them planted right now? And where is he taking them? The type 8 can get derailed by trying to protect themselves and getting what they want. So they can be very protective. They have this big armor. And they're just going to kind of push people out of the way just to go get what they want. And they're not going to be challenged. They're not going to be controlled. But in actuality, 8s are the most tender on the Enneagram, but they put up this big wall. But a healthier path for an 8 is to be open and vulnerable. We're not saying go get harmed and hurt. We're not saying that. But when they're able to be open and vulnerable, the things like Dr. Martin Luther King can do are so amazing. And then that's the type 9s. I've already talked about it. We'll get derailed by accommodating to everyone else. We need to come into an agreement. Okay, God, you've got great things for me. What is it? And then go develop themselves and go do it. There you go.
That's awesome. This has been such a great conversation, Beth, and just so much valuable information. And I know that there's like a lot more about the Enneagram too. So can you just share for those listeners that are wanting to go deeper and find out more of where they can find you?
Yeah. So yourenneagramcoach.com or Your Enneagram Coach, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Those are great places. Again, we have some free resources, but we also have online coaching courses that I'll walk you through 5 sessions. We also have coaches, certified coaches that will walk you through your own path, customize everything just to you. So that's also at myenneagramcoach.com. And then for those that are like enthusiasts, want to become an Enneagram coach, we've actually trained 2,500 coaches around the world to be Enneagram coaches. So you can go to yourenneagramcoach.com and become a certified coach with us.
That's awesome. And I also really love, I have it right here, if you can see it. I also really love that your journals that you have for each type. I think that's a really great resource as well.
Yeah. So we have those journals, and every book goes through a 21-day, really short segments on each type, but we cover the same topics each day, but then we nuance it for each type. So you can do it like with your friends, your spouse, your parent and your child, coworkers. And it's just a great way to unpack your type in bite-sized lessons with little journaling prompts. So yeah, that's called the Enneagram Collection.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Beth. It's been an honor to have you on the show today. Thank you. Do you have big dreams but no idea how to get there? Do you struggle with accomplishing the things that are most important to you? If you answered yes to those questions, I would like to offer you my free workbook called How to Get Unstuck, a free guide on how to get unstuck and live your dreams. This resource is full of tactics I use to help get me unstuck, and I believe that they will do the same for you. You can download this free guide on my blog at yourecreativeforce.com. The show notes for today's episode are available on my blog at yourecreativeforce.com, as well as other resources and inspiration to go after your dreams.